Alex, being that it's Friday, one must ask the age-old question, handed down, but is now given to you to answer. Are there too many cooks?
Too many cooks. Yeah. Too many games.
Or
Too
too
many
many?
everything.
You could change that song to "Too many games." It's too many games, and then you actually could just break down crying.
Yeah, because there really are just too many games coming out right now. I've got a pile of them on top of my head at the moment.
If you have not seen this Too Many Cooks video, hard to imagine you have not at least heard about it or been annoyed at how many people have mentioned it at this point. But if somehow it has gone past you, or you just didn't check Twitter yesterday, just do a Google search for Too Many Cooks. Don't read anything about it. You're going to click on it and go, why do I want to watch a 12-minute video? I don't go to YouTube to watch 12-minute videos. Stick with it. Trust
Mm-hmm.
me. It is worth the effort. You're going to get maybe about 3 minutes in and go, no, it's not. But then you're going to get about 5 minutes and go, huh? And then you're not going to be able to turn it off.
And
So
don't go read other people's assessments of it. Just go watch it. That's my advice to you. No one has anything meaningful to say about it. It's better to be just experience it in its entirety, basically unawares of what it really is. I will just say it is probably the funniest thing I've seen all year, and I am astonished that the people at Adult Swim let someone produce that and also air it on television because it aired on Adult Swim at like 4 in the morning
yeah, labeled as an
during their
infomercial, not
yeah
as though it was a television show or a bit people should be paying attention to. I have to assume that's why its viral nature. It's not even on Adult Swim's YouTube channel. That's not the link that's being shared around. It's on some dude that recorded it, I think.
yeah, and I am astonished by what was made there, and I yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Just go watch
Yeah.
it.
Chat's requesting. You need to show us what the hell T-shirt you're wearing. I need to know what the hell T-shirt you're wearing because you appear to be wearing some sort of Friday the 13th Ness
Yes,
T-shirts. That's
I've
fucking.
worn that.
Where did you get that?
Oh, I can't remember. Some dude in the UK made this and some other shirts sort of like it. I bought it last year, and I think I've actually worn it on, if not this show, then at least a couple of other live things before. I wish I could remember where I got it from, but it's the only thing I bought from that guy, and it was a long time ago, so I can't actually remember. But if you
Chat,
look it up,
chat. You can do it. Chat, I believe in you. Please let us know. And if you listen to the audio version of this, you're now watching the video version. Basically, uh, Alex is wearing this tremendous Friday the 13th Ness-inspired T-shirt,
yes,
in which there's a huge Jason Voorhees, all pixelated. And what really knocks it out of the park is the health bars for the children.
yeah, the health bars and the extremely purple jumpsuit is the attention to detail that I like. So
That's fantastic. I was tempted into buying. They made a Friday the 13th figure modeled after
yeah,
the Nest model. I don't. It didn't. It just looked like a Jason Voorhees that had been dipped in some. Like it wasn't pixelated, like it was just an actual
yeah.
model, So I don't know if anyone looked at that, they would look at it and go, "That's." I don't know. It didn't seem distinctive enough. I loved the idea. I thought it was a fantastic concept, but the actual, like I would have, I'd rather have like something flat, like a
Yeah.
big flat pixelated one that I could put on my wall or something like that.
I I'm just glad this wasn't like a weird mashup because that is sort of the weird, terrible trend in novelty T-shirts these days is taking multiple pop culture references and sort of smushing them into something unrecognizably unfunny. Um, Normally, I like these days. I pretty much just buy band T-shirts if I buy any T-shirts. But this one, I was very appreciative because it is the correct attention to detail, and it doesn't try to smash in a bunch of other weird references into it. Also, Danny Hibicki in the chat correctly linked to where the shirt is. The name of the shirt is Camp 1989. It is by a company called London 1888.
Oh, there's.
Uh, there is? Oh wow!
Yeah. Oh wow, the
There was
the
not a
hoodie
hoodie when I
has
bought this.
the hoodie has your graphic on the back, and then what I would assume is the decaying head of Jason Voorhees' mom on the front. I believe that's what that would be referencing. I could be wrong there. But
Real crowd pleaser.
Yeah. In any case, please don't buy that sold out before the end of the show, because I'm not gonna sit here and try and order one of these while while we're doing this. But I'd really like to. I'd like to order that. That's a fantastic shirt. $20
Yeah.
too, not bad. That's a reasonable price,
Yeah.
given that goofy shirts can sometimes go for unreasonable prices.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, that now that we're off our t-shirt talk, how's your
Mm-hmm.
week been, Patrick? What have you been up to? What have you been playing?
Oh. So I decided I got off the Sunset Overdrive track because I've been trying to like form editorials or commentary around sort of the game of the week or the game that's coming out. You know, trying to sort of capitalize on that. So I put Sunset Overdrive aside, not because I didn't want to play any more of it, but because Call of Duty was out, and that's like the thing that everyone, not everyone, but it is the biggest thing in video games right now, for sure. And it being that it's Sledgehammer's first take on the series, and by all accounts seems to have revitalized it quite a bit. I wanted to dive into that. I have no interest in the multiplayer, but I wanted to play the single player to see if there was something here, especially because I skipped Ghosts. I've played all the other Call of Duty games. I think, but yeah, even World. I might have skipped World at War because that was like Treyarch's first one they did as an alternating. I don't know, but people didn't really like that one, so I just kind of
I
skipped
don't
that.
even remember that one.
Yeah, it's the one where Kiefer Sutherland was the voice actor, I believe.
Oh,
I think.
holy shit! That had completely escaped my memory. Like completely. Wow. There have been a lot of Call of Duty games, Patrick.
Yeah, there have, and so I decided to jump into this one, and obviously there's a more authorial review on the site from Jeff, who is a big fan of that series and has played a bunch of them. But I gotta admit, it's pretty good. I am enjoying myself. The campaign is really short. It feels like I've played about 6 hours, and I have two missions to go. But the missions are kind of in and out. You can finish a lot of missions in about 20, 30 minutes max. Like they don't overstay their welcome. A lot of them have pretty fun different setups. I don't know if gimmicks would be necessarily how I'd set it up, but you have one mission where you're leaping from roof to roof with this cable that you can shoot around, and because you're in this exosuit, they can kind of just latch on whatever pseudo superpower they want. That those powers rotate based on the mission you're in. So in one mission you might have the ability to slow down time for a little while, so you can when you're faced with like 12 enemies at once, and then the next mission you've got this cable you can use to kind of jettison around, and then another one you have jets on your boots that you can use to double jump and to kind of float down safely from a high perch. So they give you a lot of different tools that allow them to create a lot of different missions that the missions themselves don't feel ultimately that different than what you've been doing in Call of Duty before, but it's what the player does in them and has the agency to do that makes them feel a little bit fresh. And yeah, I don't know. I would recommend it if you've enjoyed the series in the past, have gotten bored with it, and are curious about this new one. I think it's probably worthwhile to check out.
So the only Call of Duty game I still have on my shelf here is Modern Warfare 1. Now, that is not the last one I played. I played a little bit of Black Ops 2, and I definitely played some of Modern Warfare 2, but I think the last game I actually went out and bought from that series was Modern Warfare 1.
I like 2. 3 was pretty stale, but I
I don't
really
remember
enjoyed
much
it.
of anything about 3. I know I played a decent chunk of 2, and I did like it. I just didn't get super into it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, ranking the Call of Duty series feels to me like ranking the Transformers films. That might be more negative than I'm like that
Well, there's
comparison.
also a lot more Call of Duty games to rank in that situation. So maybe it's more like ranking the Saw films.
I
I mean, if
just,
not in action, but certainly in volume.
yeah, like they're all sort of goofy. Although I'd say the Infinity Ward ones, after writing about Sledgehammer's attempts to elicit emotion from the player, which is something we can talk about in a minute. I was reminded that like the Infinity Ward games had some fairly harrowing moments. I don't know if I'd go as far as to call them emotional, but they certainly, maybe it was just a different time for video games when we could be shocked easier. But maybe that's the case as we always go along, that the ways we are shocked happen in different ways. But the Infinity Ward games really had some crazy moments that are hard to forget if you've played that series. You know, Modern Warfare 1 had the sequence where the nuke goes off, and you sort of experience that in the first person while you're crawling around like the debris of a city. And that was a fucked up moment. That was weird.
Yeah. So Vinny and I are going to be playing, I think, some Advanced Warfare today live, because Vinny has not had a chance to play it at all. I have not had a chance to play it all yet. So we're going to have another one of our little play dates today and dig into some of the campaign, maybe a little bit of the multiplayer. I am not a Call of Duty multiplayer person at all. I'm bad at it. I don't feel like I really have, like, it's fun enough, but I don't play a lot of first-person shooters in my own time, competitively. Like, I think Titanfall was the one I sunk the most time into this year, and even that I kind of fell off of after about a month. Though I have been wanting to go and play some of that new DLC for that game. I heard it's pretty good. You had a chance to check that out at all?
It's like the tower defense mode, right?
Yeah, there's like a cooperative element to it, I think.
Whatever.
Yeah, I've heard that's good, so I want to go try that out. But today we're gonna be playing some Advanced Warfare, because Vinny and I, who the hell knows when else we're gonna get a chance to play that. Especially considering we're moving offices very, very soon, so we're gonna have to start breaking down the studio here pretty quick, and we might be kind of out of the loop for a couple of weeks following that.
Yeah, you were in a CBS office now, but you're moving to another CBS office. Or you're in the TV Guide office, right?
Yeah, we're in the TVGuide.com offices, which I guess whenever CBS bought that, they did not move them to the main CBSI office in New York. So now we're officially doing that after extensive remodeling in the main CBSI office. We will be all moved into there. I don't know if our studio space is going to be done by the time we move in there, but at the very least, we'll have desks. So that's something, right?
You'll be in a cubicle. You'll be in a CBS office.
There will be a spot that I can sit down, so there's that.
You know what? If you got that, then what else do you need?
A studio.
Okay. All right. Well, all right, Vinny. All right, Vinny, in your high standards and demands and needing equipment to do the thing that you are hired to do at this job.
Being around Vinny has made me very sensitive to things like having a studio. It's made me very interested in continuing to have a studio. It's taught me a lot.
Yeah. So you guys have been playing Call of Duty. Are you guys going to do lead-in to Unprofessional Fridays, or are you going to go earlier?
It'll be a little earlier. I don't think it's going to be a direct lead-in, but it'll be this afternoon. Probably in the later afternoon. Also today, just keep an eye out. There will be a new Power Bomb cast for those who have been demanding it. I'm sorry that we're about a week late on this one, scheduling and all of that, but you'll be able to hear us talk about wrestling and hear our extensive interview with Roman Reigns.
Oh, right. I've seen photos on Twitter. Is he the wrestler that has been making the rounds at various offices, ostensibly to promote WWE 2K15?
That is correct. He is the one who has been tasked with that because he just had hernia surgery not that long ago, so he has some free time.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Apparently he describes what a hernia is in fairly excruciating detail, which is not probably going to be great. Everyone's going to really enjoy that, I'm sure.
The reviews for the current gen, past gen versions of WWE have not been kind. They have been just outright scathing.
And with good reason. They did not put any real effort into that game, as far as I can tell. I have not really touched much of it, but I watched the quick look, and I've kind of been reading up on it, and it sounds like they took out most of the things in that game that you would find interesting, namely stuff like the story editor. They just took it out. And the reason they took it out, I think, is because the current gen versions don't have that yet, and they did not want people to think that the older gen versions were a better game or, had more features than the big game that they're mainly trying to promote.
But isn't that how this always works? That's always been the trade-off when a sports franchise jumps to the next generation of hardware. It's that they're lacking in features relative to. Is it or is that how it works in Madden as well? They strip every version of new features, or
no?
Is it just...
And that's the thing. This year's Madden, they didn't, or when they moved Madden to. So I didn't play Madden on last gen this year, but my understanding is that it was still the same basic game that they put out last year, just with like roster updates. Like they didn't take shit out of it. But they also didn't take anything out for Madden when they put it on new consoles last year. Like, they managed to transfer that over pretty seamlessly.
Well, because they waited a year, right? As opposed to
Yeah.
the last
They
time
didn't,
around.
yeah, they didn't do their big visual bump until this year. Last year was just kind of like a little bit of an upgrade, but now this year was what's much better. But in this case, yeah, it's weird. Like, the story editor has always been one of their jankiest features, but I think because of that, it's always been one of their best. Like, none of the cutscenes in it are very good. The editing tools are kind of janky. Like, it's all just kind of a mess. But it lets you create really incredible, stupid shit. It's why VGCW is so amazing, because it's using these haggard-ass tool set that they've just left in there for years and making great shit with it. And now they've taken that out. And who knows when or if they will even bring it back, because it's not in the current gen versions as far as I'm to understand. And that sucks. That just sucks. And also, the last gen version does not have the interesting story mode stuff, like the regular story mode,
Right.
that the current gen version has. It has a very hobbled version of that, it sounds like, which, yeah, that's... Maybe don't go buy that version if you're going to buy any version of this game this year. Maybe the 360 and PS3 are not for you.
Yeah, I just started perusing. I saw GameSpots and then looked around a little bit and was like, whoa! I expected the reviews to be kind of, you should probably wait for the real version, but instead it was just like, this is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, we have to throw a game out on these platforms because there are still hundreds and hundreds of thousands of millions of people that still own these consoles, so we need something. That said, yeah, I haven't had a chance to check out the final version of the current gen game yet. They're supposed to be sending it soon. I am holding out hope that final game is at least pretty good, because, like I said, everything I've heard about that game is that it has been coming in super hot. So I'm hopeful that they actually made something good out of it.
Is that out next week?
That is out next week. Oh, wait, no, that is out 2 weeks. November 18th.
Okay.
My birthday.
Oh, that's very kind of them.
Yeah.
Thank you, 2K Sports.
Big games always come out on my birthday. Anytime the 18th is on a Tuesday, that is always, like, the biggest games come out, because it's the week before Thanksgiving, almost always.
Is that the same week that Smash Brothers comes out? I know Smash Brothers doesn't come out on Tuesdays, but...
I think Smash Brothers, yeah, it is. It's the 21st.
21st, okay, so later that week. Friday, I guess, right? That's how that would fall.
Yeah.
That t-shirt sold out. I don't know if that's always been sold out or if you people in the chats bought it, but if you bought it, you're monsters.
Still got a chance for the hoodie, though, I think, maybe.
So, yeah, I'll be curious. You guys will play enough of Call of Duty to get to the moment that I wrote about earlier this week.
Oh, yeah, because that's pretty early on, right?
It's extremely early in the game. I suppose if I should warn right now, if you are sensitive to Call of Duty Advanced Warfare spoilers, spoilers that were being joked about as soon as that game's embargo was up this past weekend. It's something that occurs 20 minutes into the game, but if that is something that you would not like to hear about, then I suppose pause for the next 5 minutes or so and come back. But yeah, there's a moment in that game in which the game starts out with you and your buddy going out on a mission. It's 2054. You work for the government. You were being sent to South Korea. They're being invaded by North Korea, and you're trying to push back on that military effort. In the midst of doing that, your friend gets his arm caught. He blows up as part of a bomb he was planting on your objective. He dies, and then the next mission or the next scene opens at his funeral. There's a couple of perfunctory military speeches. A couple people pay their respects, and then the game hands over control to you. During that sequence, you can look around with your the right analog stick. Oftentimes games will lock you into a cutscene, but you can still kind of look around what's happening to you as they force you to move forward, and then you can't do anything. You can't move the scene along until you engage with a contextual action that is attached to the coffin, which is to, in the case of an Xbox controller, press X to pay respects. At which point you kneel down and do the whole spiel that one is wont to do in such a situation. But it's just such a ham-fisted, blunt way of getting the player to do something in a moment that even in a Call of Duty game demands more respect than the game give it. And it was very much a facepalm moment of, oh, you developers have been staring at this game way, way too long and have forgotten all about what this scene is actually supposed to be about, or how you would motivate the player to potentially actually do that action.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole scene seems goofy, but I mean, it's only goofy in the context of, trying to wring emotional reactions out of the player in a game that is pretty much, one of a long series of interactive Michael Bay movies. Like, and, to be fair, Michael Bay, whenever he tries to get emotional, that shit's pretty ham-fisted too. So I understand where they're drawing their inspiration from and why it comes off that way. The only thing I really have to add to any of that is that I am super disappointed you didn't use my suggested article headline, which was "Press X to feel something, anything." Oh God, I feel nothing.
I mean, it's not a game that really is trying to pull at your heartstrings. The Call of Duty series, even when they've been harrowing, as I alluded to earlier, it was more of a shock value than it was, building up characters you care deeply about, and then putting them in situations where you feel emotions towards them, and it was just incredibly clumsy. I think people have been unnecessarily snarky about it because it's a Call of Duty game.
Right, because there's tons of games that have those kinds of prompts for emotional beats all over the place. I mean, I think I saw someone talking about it this week where, like, Twine games do a lot of that, where it's like, press this button to experience, whatever this character's emotional reaction is to this situation. Like, that's a big element of games. It's just, it's how you frame the scene around that makes it either ridiculous or kind of fit in. Like, that's why the press X to mass grave moment is something that people have been referencing for years, because it is ludicrous.
Yeah, it's so on the nose.
Yeah.
That's the part of it that you just sort of roll your eyes at is, if it was just a contextual action, just hold X, like, we got to go down here, or if there, in the case of the Call of Duty scene, if it was just a contextual action there that you could engage with, but didn't have to engage with, then it might have actually been an interesting moment where you as the player get to potentially express a character moment for the player the character you're playing as, Mitchell. But if you choose to not do it, it's neither here nor there. But instead, the game sort of just like thrusts it upon you, and also explains what you're about to do before you do it. So what's the point of doing it if if you're going to explain the whole action? Like, it makes sense when you spell that stuff out for an actual, like, you're going to jump over this fence, or you're going to jump over this thing, or you're going to go into cover. Like, you need to know that information because it determines your strategy in the middle of combat. So it makes sense to outline that one-to-one, but the whole, you're going to kneel and pay your respects, or you're going to look down at your arm and pay some respects, is just sort of, it was weird. But I also equally was frustrated at the amount of people that just sort of dogpile on it, because there are plenty of instances of games doing, if not worse, just as bad sort of contextual actions to try and engage the player in something that is different than the actions they normally do, but in a way that feels sort of forced, because games want to tell these stories but don't necessarily know how to get the player involved in actually telling them.
Yeah, for sure. So Call of Duty has primarily been your thing this week.
Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
You did a stream with that.
Yeah, I did a stream when it came out on Tuesday. Launched on Steam, and then later in the day launched on PlayStation Store for Vita and PS4. It's currently part of PlayStation Plus, so if you subscribe to that, you can nab that for no dollars instead of, I believe, $15. Although if you don't have that, it is well worth $15. Binding of Isaac Rebirth, if you are not familiar with, I guess it's a series now, that there are two of them, even if Rebirth is really just an update and remix of the first one. It's sort of a top-down shooter. You have 8-way movement, 4-way shooting, in which you play Isaac, someone who is very upset with his mother. So he heads into the basement to fight all sorts of monsters and to eventually fight his mom, and you collect all sorts of weird, crazy power-ups along the way that sort of allow you to create a character build. A lot of the power-ups are really ridiculous, and a lot of them actually screw up your playstyle. For example, instead of shooting up, down, left, or right, you'll have your shots will suddenly go in circles for no discernible reason, and it's very difficult to actually play the game that way. But it's also a roguelike in the sense that when you die, you start over from scratch. As you play through the game on multiple runs, you can unlock additional items that then appear in the basement that didn't appear in the basement before. So the game changes on pretty fundamental levels as you continue to go through different runs, because it's not the case as in, say, Spelunky, in which your first run is the equivalent to your 100th run.
Right.
In which everything that could happen the first time could also happen the 100th time. Not the case in Binding of Isaac, because the items are constantly changing, and every time you beat the Binding of Isaac, well, not every time, I suppose. There's an end to it eventually, but for a significant amount of time, you're going to be playing and unlocking new progression, deeper levels every time you jump back in. So Rebirth adds a ton of new items, different kinds of rooms, new characters. It changes the basic rule sets of some things that people have experienced if you've played the game before. It also has a completely new art style. The last game had a sort of vector-based flash art that I didn't particularly care for. I still don't care for the aesthetic that much. It's just kind of gross and poop jokes and that sort of thing. But
there is a lot of poo in that game.
A lot of poo in that game.
There's so much poo. Why is there so much poo?
There's items that allow you to poo if you don't get enough poo. It's a lot of poo.
I don't want more poo. I want less.
Well, then don't play the Binding of Isaac, because it's a lot of poo.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a really difficult, really fascinating, really fulfilling game that if you only play for 15 minutes, you will probably go, this sucks, and not get anything out of it. It's a game that really does, akin to Spelunky, demand 10, 15 hours of your time to really start to grasp how all the movement and shooting works. I know that Jeff's hang-up is that it doesn't have 8-way shooting. I understand the frustration there, but it's also a deliberate design choice, and it forces you to play a certain way. And not to mention, you can also angle your shots, so you can't do true 8-way, but you can move your shots in ways that are not up, down, left, and right if you're timing it correctly. And yeah, I've really, really enjoyed it, and the Vita version is fantastic. It is probably the way to play that game. It has a little bit of frame rate issues, but by and large, it sits at 60 frames a second and then just kind of hiccups every once in a while, but it doesn't hiccup in the way that the Flash old version on PC did, in which you actually felt like you were playing an old SNES bullet hell shooter like R-Type, in which you were moving at like 3 frames a second.
Yeah, that's not okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever actually going to play that. I played some Binding of Isaac when that first came out. I've messed around with it here and there, but it's not a game that's ever really hooked me. Certainly not in the way that other games of that general genre kind of have. And what I've seen of Rebirth, I mean, sounds cool. And the people I know, like you, and also Russ Frushtick, who is a gigantic Binding of Isaac nerd, love it to death. It seems like the upgrades that have been made in this version.
If you like Spelunky,
I do like Spelunky.
You should like Binding of Isaac. And
I don't for some reason. I don't know why that is.
The aesthetic is hard to get over.
It's not just the aesthetic. It's not. Playing it did not hook me.
It takes a while, I guess, is what I would ultimately say. It doesn't mean that it would necessarily click for you, but I found it really did take a solid 5 to 10 hours before I was like, oh, okay. Prior to Spelunky, I really didn't enjoy games that were predicated on sort of the infinite run concept. I liked games that had a beginning and an end, and then that's it. Like it was something I could wrap my head around. And in some ways, Binding of Isaac and Spelunky both do have beginning and ends, but those are more or less just wrappers for the experience of going into the basement over and over again. What I've found really fun, and it's something I've been talking to Brad about, is one of the things that you get hung up on really early when you're playing is that you will constantly get items that completely fuck up everything you're trying to do and make it extremely difficult to play the game.
Yeah.
And what I find fun now that I have a pretty fundamental grasp of the mechanics is, okay, so this is a new item. So here's my rule. So one of the things that Binding of Isaac does is it doesn't tell you what items do at all. When you pick them up, there are vague hints, and oftentimes it will be obvious what an item does, but a lot of times it won't be. It might be a passive item that you need to charge up by getting hit, and the game won't explain that. It might be subtly hinted at by the fact that when you get hurt, something changes on Isaac's body, but the game is intentionally mysterious and wants you to poke and prod at it and wants you to talk to people and wants you to look things up online. It's not a game that lays out all its cards on the table, and that can be understandably frustrating. But what I enjoy about it is that you can then make these grand mistakes that really screw up something that you were happy with, and then it becomes a matter of, do you want to give up on it? Do you want to just start the run over, which you shouldn't do, but instead just take that baggage on and try and see how far you can go. Because you're just going to go on another run, and every single run of Isaac results in you learning something. Even if it happens on a run that goes completely awry, you end up learning something upon your descent. And usually, you can't plan for having a great run. Great runs happen by accident. So it's better to see how far you can get with a shitty run, because it's going to be more reflective of your experience playing the game, because you are going to have more shitty runs than good runs. Also, that could also be a poop joke.
Yeah, it's a good... Yeah, God damn it. Fuck. God damn it, Patrick. I hate you.
I didn't mean to.
Ugh! Well, at some point I might give that game another shot. Probably won't be in calendar 2014, though, because there's a fair amount of stuff coming up that I still have to play. Assassin's Creed Unity, for instance, just showed up, so I'm going to be spending my weekend with that.
Yeah, I had some Amazon credit, so I was going to play the PC version, and then I guess I'm not going to do that, because now it's only on Uplay. We can get to that, but
we'll get to that.
You can't talk about that, right?
Not yet.
About to play Assassin's Creed Unity, but you cannot talk about it.
I have spent a few hours with it, and we will have some stuff to talk about probably next week. I think. Let me look up real fast when the embargo is, but I think the embargo is Tuesday, so we probably won't be able to talk about that on Monday either.
Maybe we'll look at that embargo. We might think about moving the show to Tuesday if it's a reasonable embargo, because it would be cool too.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday morning. It's Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. is the embargo for that one.
PST?
So, PST.
Okay, maybe let's think about. We're gonna move the morning show. We'll move it to Tuesday so that we can. I'll do a Binding of Isaac stream on Monday morning to replace really being something there. But otherwise, let's move that to Tuesday so that we can actually hear what you have to say about Unity, because I am super curious about that game. I liked the last one a lot. I wish I didn't have to play one this year because I really want to break. But I have a feeling this one's going to be pretty good, and the fact that it's ditching old generation hardware when most games haven't done that yet, I'm curious about it for that alone.
Well, I mean, their way of ditching it was to put Rogue out so that there was something out there for people to play on those consoles. It is perhaps worth noting that Assassin's Creed Rogue will be showing up on my doorstep on Monday.
Yeah, that's been the thing, huh? They aren't sending that out to press, which is usually not
a great sign. I mean, sometimes that trend has been bucked, but more often than not, it has not. So I would say that maybe keep an eye on Rogue reviews before you run right out and buy that one. And, do that for Unity, I would say, too. But we'll talk about that more on Tuesday. Like I said, I've only gotten a few hours into it, and I can't say anything right now. But I imagine we'll have some conversations about that game.
Is there anything you've been playing this week you want to talk about before we move over to news?
At this, honestly, I have not had a lot of chance to play much else. I got those basketball reviews up finally. I had to get stuff together for the Power Bombcast. So other than digging into some AC and playing I played some more of Sunset Overdrive, which I still think gets better as it goes along. Bayonetta 2 is still very fun. I'm like 3 chapters in at this point, and I like it a lot. Like, that is a game that I very much expect to be on my top 10 list at the very least, and I will lobby very hard to be on our overall one when things come around, unless it somehow takes a terrible turn toward the end, which I don't think it does. But yeah, other than that, just kind of catching up on stuff that I've been playing all along, and those games are still good. You should play them.
Oh man, Far Cry 4.
So
Far Cry 4 comes out the week after Assassin's Creed. It doesn't stop.
yep, Far Cry is right after that, same week as WWE and some other stuff.
Dragon Age. Which Dragon Age? I have not played. Matthew Rory is taking a look at that for us, but there have been just sort of sly mentions on Twitter from a couple of folks that are clearly reviewing that game, and they all involve, I don't think this game ever ends. And I don't think they mean that in a negative way. I think they're speaking purely from this perspective of reviewers that are probably saddled with several games to play for ones that are coming out in November, and by all accounts, both in what EA has indicated and what appear reviewers seem to be nodding towards, that it is a very long game even to just complete the mainline quests.
Right.
Like 50 plus hours, which should be people really excited if you're excited for a brand new Dragon Age, because we don't get those every once in a while. And it makes me terrified, though, because I was going to try and jump into this one, and
Yeah, this doesn't seem like a game where jumping in is really a possibility.
I'm gonna do it.
It's a game that you gotta lay out a long period of time to dedicate to. It's telling that that game has been sent out for review as early as it has, not just because it is, like you said, likely a very long game, but because, as I recall correctly, or if I recall, Dragon Age 2, they didn't send out at all.
Yeah, that's EA sometimes.
I'm gonna say at least some outlets didn't get that game at all. So, like, before release. So I think maybe there's a little more confidence in this one.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. I'm definitely excited to play it. But all right, well, let's. There was some news this week. There's some stuff that happened, as there is usually, but a lot of stuff happened this week.
Yeah.
So we got some proper unveilings for GTA Next Gen, or I guess current gen. I don't know if I'll ever quite get that down. Maybe 2 years from now I'll finally get my lingo together. But we saw a trailer for that at E3. But I think the big thing that got revealed this week was that Rockstar is adding in a proper first-person mode. First-person has been added to the GTA series in the past through modding, specifically and usually on the PC version.
Yeah.
Now they are actually giving it a full coat of paint. They're really polishing it out, making sure it works. And I watched that trailer, and GTA in first person actually looks kind of amazing.
Yeah, it does, and I've messed around with some of those mods in the past, and I think it can be fun. I also I appreciate that this is a very cool thing for some people, but for me, it's like having the camera be third person doesn't really address any of the issues I might have with playing GTA. Like, it's cool, it's different, it's a different perspective, and it's a different way of kind of approaching it, but it also feels like a fairly superfluous thing to me. I don't know. Am I totally off base on that? Is this something that people really demand? Like, for me, it just feels like, well, that's cool, I guess.
I saw a lot of chatter on Twitter that for folks it was a really compelling reason to pick this version up and to play the game second time. That's not for me. I think your feeling on that may weigh heavily on how you actually felt about GTA 5, a game that I think both you and I enjoyed, but was ultimately pretty ambivalent about by the end. I think it was
I've forgotten most of what happened in that game.
Yeah.
Which has never happened to me with a GTA that wasn't on, like, the PSP. Like, I usually remember most of the major story beats in those games. Even if I don't like them, I at least remember them. Like, the worst parts of GTA 4 I still pretty much remember. GTA 5 is just kind of a blur. Like, I remember more about the world and exploring and just kind of, like, the visuals of it than I do anything that actually took place in it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I remember a lot of the scenery. I can, in my head, like right now, bring up lots of the. So the thing that I am curious about seeing is seeing that world at 60 frames a second on the PC or something like that. That sounds just like going around in a plane.
Yeah,
sounds pretty great. But the idea of playing through that game a whole second time, I don't have a lot of interest in. There have been indications from Rockstar and Take-Two that there is significant single-player content coming at some point in an add-on fashion, that this isn't the end of their support for GTA 5.
I mean,
So
it makes sense. I mean, I don't think it took this long, but it did. There was some space between when GTA 4 came out and when those expansions started coming out, right?
it was at least a year.
Yeah.
So rather than a year later getting single player add-ons, we're getting updates to current gen platforms and the PC. The PC version comes, I think, in January, not in
Yeah.
November 18th. I think is when the GTA 5.
Everything's coming out on my birthday.
All the presents for you, Alex. Spend all the money, get all the presents.
Presents, give to me presents, birthday, yes.
Oh, don't use that voice ever, ever again.
I
I don't like it at all.
You shouldn't like that at all.
It's flashbacks to bad childhood memories. And yeah, so I don't, yeah, I don't really want to play.
GTA 5. I don't know.
Yeah, GTA 5 is coming out. If you want to play it again, good for you. That's not for me. I'll watch the videos, I guess.
Yeah.
I look forward to the quick look.
Yes.
See what the game looks like. And that's kind of about it. But let's see. EA canceled its MOBA, Dawngate.
Yeah, that thing I've been getting press releases for like a year, and still didn't really ever understand exactly what it was. I knew it was a MOBA and that it was an EA thing, but I didn't really understand anything about it beyond that. I feel like there was a sort of intense apathy around that game, at least from the press. I never really saw anyone outside of like EA really talking about that game. I guess there was like a decent-sized audience they had in their closed beta or whatever, but they just decided to cancel it, which maybe the interest level just wasn't there. I don't know.
Yeah, for a MOBA, it's all community-based, right? So that's not something that can exist without a robust, interested community. And they did an 18-month beta period, the last 6 months of which were an open betas where anyone could sign up. And they must have just done a cost-benefit analysis and said, hey, there are some people that like this, but not enough for us to justify putting in that effort. So it was nice. They mentioned that if you spent any money during the beta period, all that's going to be refunded. Which is sometimes how that stuff goes. They're testing out how people are interested in spending money, but you're going to get all that back when the beta period closes. So I have to imagine they were pretty close to moving to sort of a 1.0 and then just said, you know what, we're not going to do this. Which it's Brad probably knows better than we do whether that game was worth anything. But I certainly saw no chatter from folks that I know that are interested in that genre. No one seemed particularly moved to check it out. It's either you play League of Legends, Dota, or maybe have a passing interest in what Blizzard is doing with that game, whose name I can't remember.
Not Dota.
Not Dota. It was like Blizzard All-Stars at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen them talk about that game in quite a while, actually. At least not in any serious capacity.
There was a Nintendo Direct. Satoru Iwata returned from his surgery, and then he took a little bit of time off. So he is back at it, which is good to see and encouraging. But yeah, the Nintendo Direct, which I suppose could potentially be the last one for the year. Maybe they'll do another one in December. But they kicked off with the biggest news of 2014, in my eyes, that they are doing a update. Remake is maybe too strong of a word, of Majora's Mask, the best Zelda game. Which I think has been at this point just determined by collective favoritism. We have all agreed that Majora's Mask is the best Zelda game. I was happy that we finally came to that conclusion and settled that argument, especially amongst the Giant Bomb staff. It was great to get Jeff to finally concede that Majora's Mask was and is and remains the best Zelda game, and that he was wrong. So that's great. But yes, what are you doing?
I'm just not going to say anything.
I'm
going to let you have your moment. I'm going to let you be happy
with that voice.
Just whatever makes you happy. Glad to hear it.
That was your approach on Twitter as well. Was you were this close to going into full snark mode, saw everyone with just pure joy, and said, "No, I won't interfere.
Yeah. I don't want to fuck that up for other people. You know what? It's like, here's the thing about Majora's Mask. I don't hate it enough to want to ruin other people's experience with it. It's not a game I like. I don't even think it's the worst mainline Zelda game. I just don't like it.
Yeah,
that's
Twilight
fine.
Princess.
Maybe. Skyward Swords might even be in that ballpark. I don't know, but
Oh no, it's Skyward Sword has some really great moments. Twilight Princess, I couldn't
Twilight
refuse
Princess is
that.
just incredibly boring. Um, but regardless of all of that, it's not such a bad game that I can say to people like you are bad for liking it. I will never say that to someone. It's fine. People like it.
You might think it.
It didn't do it for me. Majora's Mask did not do it for me. I found it frustrating. I didn't enjoy it. But this obviously is making a ton of people very happy. So good for you. I'm glad it's happening. Already got Ocarina on 3DS, so I already got my N64 Zelda that I like. Now you should have yours. Why not? Why shouldn't you get that?
That's that's great. Why shouldn't I get that? I'm gonna be curious what they end up changing in the game. They alluded to in the Nintendo Direct that they are going to be making gameplay tweaks to make it more accessible. There are certainly ways they could use the bottom screen to make the game less clumsy to manipulate. So I'm curious if they could go doing any fundamental changes to try and make the game a little less frustrating. I don't know how they can change some of the things that are frustrating about that game to the people that find it frustrating. I guess I should be specific. Is fundamental to the gameplay experience. It takes a long time before you have, the spells to manipulate time that make the game easier to kind of get around and to sort of bend to your will. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do with that, but I'm glad it's coming. Have no hope that we will ever get a proper Majora's Mask 2, but if the closest I'm going to get is a 3D update on the 3DS, I'm okay with that. I appreciate the acknowledgement of the dark horse in the Zelda series because obviously I care about it a whole lot. And hey, you know what? Why do you think we hired Dan Reichert? He loves that game too. So
I mean, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
The reaction I saw on Twitter when that was announced was overwhelmingly positive. So I recognize that I'm probably, if not in the minority, then at the very least, like not on the winning side of this, and that's fine. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to live on the wrong side of history, and I'm cool with that. I've dug my little hole over here, my little anti-Majora's Mask hole, and I'm just going to live in that hole while all of you have a little party over there with your fun times, and I'm just going to sulk.
That's fine. You're just fitting into your. That's what you do anyway. So go
Yeah,
soak.
it's just a different hole.
Ugh. They showed some new footage for Codename Steam, the new strategy game from the developers of Advance Wars, which looks pretty great. I'll play any game with Abraham Lincoln as your team leader. That's great. They showed new footage for Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. Promise that's coming in February. Splatoon is coming sometime in the second quarter, which sounds like a great way for them to give a vague release date that they can then delay to the summer and then to the fall, as is the case with Nintendo. Xenoblade Chronicles X is 2015, both in the U.S. and Japan, so that seems firmly entrenched into holiday 2015, if it even makes it out next year. They did not give a date for Yoshi's Woolly World.
They didn't even talk about it, did they?
They alluded to it, and I don't think they showed it on the stream, but there's a Yoshi's Woolly World stage in Smash Brothers for Wii U, which is pretty great. But that game sounds like summer-ish, early fall. I'm really looking forward to it. I wish that was further along, but it appears not to be. They announced Duck Hunt for the Virtual Console, which, sure, why not, I guess.
Wait a minute.
Use a Wiimote.
Like
or Wii Remote.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, sure, I guess.
They also announced Amiibo support for Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, also known as the upcoming Game of the Year 2014.
That is still coming out this year, right?
Yeah, like December 5th.
Okay, good.
Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. Yeah, I don't know how that game falls in terms. Fuck. Okay, I'm worried about you, Captain Toad. I'm not sure where you fall on our schedule for stuff this year. I'm gonna have to look into that.
I will jam it in there if we have to.
Yeah, Yoshi's Woolly World and Mario Party 10 are all getting support for Amiibo. They didn't announce what that means. I am still not convinced this Amiibo stuff is worth a damn. The figures look worse than they did at E3.
Well, of course they did. I mean, those were probably prototypes, right?
No, right, but what I'm saying is they don't seem particularly great for collectors Like they're not amazing figurines, and they're not making a convincing argument for why I need them for like. Great, I get to unlock a weapon in Hyrule Warriors, or great, I get to unlock a costume in Mario Kart 8. Like those aren't. That's not worth spending $100 on 8 figures or whatever it is
No.
that's on the first wave. Like they needed to announce a game that exploited my nostalgia and required those figures to have a compelling reason to buy that stuff. I just don't. It's very un-Nintendo, in my opinion, to announce something like this that seems more and more like a cash grab when it doesn't come with a piece of software that says, this is why this matters.
Yeah.
It tends to be how they do this, which is they announce something that you don't quite get, but then it's paired with a piece of software that makes it all make sense. They have not done that.
No, I mean, the whole time this amiibo thing has come off very much like someone at Nintendo kept saying in meetings, we should do this, because they looked at Disney Infinity and Skylanders and said, well, this is incredibly popular. We have all these very great-looking cartoon characters that we could totally be selling figures for and somehow tying this together. We don't understand why this is popular. We just know that it is, and this is something we should do. Like, it is all very, like, out of necessity versus like them actually having an interesting or good, or even if it was just their spin on exactly the same thing Infinity or Skylanders is doing, they're just not even trying to do that. They're just like, well, we want to have these figures and we need to tie them into our game somehow. Can someone figure this out? Because we don't want to actually make a game around these.
It feels rushed. It feels as though the figures were something they could get together for the holiday. They have this NFC technology that they've bizarrely ignored since the launch of the Wii U, despite it being one of the parts of the hardware that we all sort of thought, okay, this is actually something ahead of the curve. It was ahead of Skylanders, and they didn't do anything with it. And they're not doing anything with it now. I think the only people who are going to buy this are people that want to collect Nintendo figurines, and that's fine. I don't mean that to be condescending, but I don't think it serves them particularly well.